Thanks everybody for coming out tonight for another version of AngelNV. Tonight, it's pitch practice and pitch deconstruction. Thanks for coming out. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes, make a couple of announcements here. And then I will turn it over to Logan and Maggie to get going. So first, I want to thank our sponsors. The Brex card, if you are an entrepreneur and you're looking for some credit, you don't want to put your personal credit on the line, give Brex card a try. If you use the link that you see right there, you can get a $500 bonus in your credit account from Brex. If you don't use that link, then they might not give you the $500. So if you're interested in the credit, make sure you use the link with our name in it. City of Las Vegas has been an incredible sponsor to the Startup NV organization. They give us this cool place to work in downtown Las Vegas. Give us a place to do our AngelNV conference at the Las Vegas City Hall at the end of all of this bootcamp stuff we're doing for the founders and for the investors. And they've just been great in so many ways. So big thanks to the City of Las Vegas. And last but certainly not least is Glassboard Technologies. They supply all of the back office infrastructure for our investments that we ultimately make in the startups in the Nevada area. So thanks to Glassboard Technologies. And if you are an investor, you're thinking about putting together a special purpose vehicle, I suggest you check them out because they do it very efficiently and very inexpensively compared to most other operations. So Startup NV runs an accelerator and incubator program for entrepreneurs. For the early stages, the feasibility stages that you see here, we have a Grow NV program, which gets companies to the point where they can are really ready to pitch for capital from angels and early stage investors. Once you've gotten to the point where you actually do have something in the market, you got an MVP, a version 1.0 of your product, a beta, whatever you want to call that first thing that you may be selling, or maybe it's still free, then you kind of jump over into our accelerator program that deals with the viability stage, where we also, if you get into the accelerator, supply a $50,000 investment, a minimum of $50,000 investment, which we can often leverage up to more than $50,000. And then once we get you to the point that you've got the $50,000 a month in sales or a $500,000 annualized sales, then we're gonna get you into our seed funding group so that we can get that bigger round of capital that usually runs into the middle six figures and low seven figures. So no matter where you are, from the point where you have an idea to the place where you're scaling, we've got a program in our offering somewhere for you. We've got the three items for founders: Grow NV, Startup NV, which I just talked about, AngelNV, which you're involved in right now, Founder Bootcamp, and then we have our three investment funds that invest in the various programs that our founders are in. So does this all work? I would say yes. So we've got just a sampling of some of the companies that are in our current cohort: SurgeStream, Safe Harbor, Navaca, Turbine, and Stream It Now, otherwise known as Express Tickets, are currently in the accelerator cohort. And that's out of over 700 pitches that we've heard, and that number will be added to tonight. 52 companies that have come through the accelerator, 28 companies that have received investment for totaling just over $70 million. So the program does work, and we're glad you're here, and hopefully it'll work for you. Speaking of investment, we have opened up the AngelNV Seed Fund for applications. So if you do intend to apply for the $200,000 in funding, you can jump on over to angelnv.com, or you can scan that QR code that you see up on your screen right now. The deadline for entering for that investment is January 18th. So you have some time, but not a ton of time. And it will take you a little bit of time to get your application complete. It is slightly annoying, I will warn you right now, to fill out a lot of information that our investors want to know. So be prepared to spend a little bit of time on it. You don't have to finish it all in one go. You can take several sessions to get it done. So you got to have it at least started by January 18th, even if you don't finish it up for a couple of weeks. Our investors will start taking a look at those applications just after the 1st of February. So, but just make sure you've got your toe in the water by January 18th. There is a donation to the nonprofit of $29 to apply. If there is a hardship case, we ask that you get in touch with us on email, and we'll see if we can get that fee waived for you. Now, if you want to apply to the accelerator and the $50,000 investment that comes to that, either hop on over to startupnv.org and click on the Pitch to Us button, or scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now. That's always free to apply. Again, there's a little bit of work that you have to do in order to get the application finished. So be ready to spend 5, 10, 15 minutes on the application when you get ready to make that, when you get ready to apply to either Startup NV or AngelNV. Now, if you're on the investor side and you want to join one of our investments, you have to be an accredited investor, which means that you have to have $1 million of net worth outside of your principal residence or earn more than $200,000 a year. There's a few exceptions to that, but that's the general rule. If you do want to invest in AngelNV, be one of the 40 investors or more investors that invest $5,000 in the fund, which will ultimately be invested in a Nevada startup that goes through the application process that I just mentioned on the last slide. Just scan that QR code and it'll drop you right into our investor portal. And there's some legal information about the investment where you have to sign up and swear that you're an accredited investor. And then the investment costs a $5,000 minimum, plus there's a few fees that for the investors to pay there as well. Same is true on our Fund NV investment. We are closing the fund to new investors as of the end of this month. So if you do want to be an investor in our $1 million fund that's making 20 investments in local companies, please scan that QR code. Again, you have to be an accredited investor to invest. The minimum investment for Fund NV is $10,000. And there is a 12/31 deadline if you want to get in on the fund that is Fund NV. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie, and she's going to run our pitch practice and pitch deconstruction for the night. Thanks again, everybody, for showing up and participating. Maggie, over to you.
Okay, well, everybody, welcome again. So far, only 4 people have signed up. I've been posting the link to the sign-up sheet every time I saw somebody new come in. So let me know if you haven't seen the sign-up sheet. We're probably going to do these in the order in which they come in. So we can get going and people can continue to sign up. So LB, it looks like you're going first. I know you had some questions about Tam Sam Song, and don't worry about that for this 1-minute pitch. That's you don't really have much time to talk about that kind of stuff. In a 3-minute pitch, you can touch on it, but if you don't have it, I understand. Okay, so the way it's going to work is I'm going to actually, does anybody want to be the guinea pig that gets immediate feedback before we run through all the rest of them 1 minute at a time? And LB, if you're cool with that, you signed up first. So Angie has volunteered if you don't want to be the one to pitch, get advice.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm ready to go ahead and start. Give me time to start.
I usually start the timer after you say your name and your company.
Good.
So go for it.
I'm LB Corning. I'm a software developer and tech guy. My mom keeps calling me. She bought this $1,200 mobile phone, but she has absolutely no idea on how to use it beyond making simple phone calls. She's frustrated and embarrassed by her lack of knowledge. She wants to remain connected to the world, and she's not alone. I'm helping lots of her friends too. My company, Cell Phone 101, is an application to help mobile phone users learn how to use their mobile phone smarter, safer, and better. Our focus is on safety and security. We help users understand what tasks are really helpful, identify opportunities for improving their skills. The user tracks their progress via a simple graphic report out. Practice, practice, practice. Has your mom ever called you and asked for help and sending a photo to a friend, or she got a message that says your mobile phone has been compromised? Call us immediately. Or yeah, that's a scam. Cell Phone 101 is the app to prepare for that and more.
Okay. You finished with 5 seconds left to go. So good on the time. Jeff, do you have any feedback?
Yeah, well, I have questions. I thought it was a really well rehearsed and done presentation. So way to go, LB. I would like to hear more. When it's, if I heard that elevator pitch, I want to hear more. I've got some skepticism about whether there's a market, whether people are going to pay. I know my mom is in that category of people who she won't even use a smartphone because she doesn't want to deal with it. So I know that there's just like when PCs were first out, there's a big market of people who want to learn but need their handheld to do it. The other thing that I would probably ask my first question on is, well, if they're not skilled enough to use a cell phone beyond making a phone call or a smartphone beyond making a phone call, is there, will they be able to use the app? So those are the concerns I have going in. From a presentation point of view, though, I thought from a 1 minute pitch perspective, I liked it. I would like to have heard how many people are in the market. You probably could have used a few seconds on that. There are over, 1 billion, 100 million, whatever it is, people in the market that, are of a certain age that may not be, that may need the help, may appreciate the help that you're offering. So overall, though, I'd give it a solid grade. LB, way to go.
I'll go next, and then you can go, Logan. Yes, I thought because you have only a minute, you need to have a story and you need to have a hook. And I think that you did that really well. It was intriguing. I like that you talked about your mom. But my question would be really, how many people are there who are going to need that kind of help? Because you could stop any kid in the street and ask them how to do something. But it may be more warm and welcoming if somebody else, was coming to you and saying, I can help you with this, and you don't have to be embarrassed by asking your grandkid how to do it. So good job. Go ahead, Logan.
Good job on that. I think that one of the main things that when we're looking at kind of a pitch is you want to have that established. Here's the problem, here's our solution, and then here's the market opportunity, business model, other components, whether it's the investment component. So you did a really good job of defining okay, here's the problem, here's my sink, here's that, and then here's that solution component, and really nailing kind of what how you really are from a really streamlined perspective, solving that pain point. That's excellent. Keep working at that. The 1 minute pitch itself was well rehearsed, hit most of the main points, and good job.
Okay, so now we're going to just go in order.
Yes,
all right, so Charlie, I know you put something in chat. You were not sure what the format was. Charlie actually just pitched to the accelerator last week, so he did a 10-minute pitch. Charlie, this is getting people used to the notion of pitching, and we do it with what we think is one of the hardest ones to do, which is just a 1 minute pitch, where you need to create a story arc. And of course, the goal there, just like your 10-minute pitch, is to get them to say, tell me more. So you have signed up. Do you want to do a 1 minute pitch?
Yeah, sure. And I agree with you. 1 minute is way harder than 10 minutes. I had a tough time trying to pare it down.
Okay, are you ready? And like I said, I'll start the timer after you say your name and company.
Oh, sure. I guess I need to share my screen, right?
Nope, there's no slides in the 1 minute pitch. If you get voted into hearing a 3 minute pitch, you can use some slides.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I'm Charlie Maddox, former Air Force pilot, software developer, and co-founder of CID, an industrial IoT team. We help the largest enterprises manage their assets using unique IoT technology. The TAM is just more than 9 trillion. Our first focus is the Department of Defense. We have significant relationships, a contract vehicle that allows sole source contracts up to $100 million, and 2 initial contracts already in hand. If we perform as planned in 2022, we expect to be a program of record with a contract of about 40 million by the end of the year. 2 of our founders are Air Force veterans. Our CEO is a patent holding executive with 4 successful exits and deep experience in industrial IoT. Our advisors include several high-ranking industry insiders and a lobbyist who have already opened doors for our early success. We're raising funds to expand our team, fund technology development, and scale operations. We have letters of commitment from 4 partner companies that will join us in forming a technology hub in Nevada. These are companies whose products are not currently manufactured here, but will be required to be made in the U.S. to sell to the military. Thank you.
Good timing. Okay, we only give feedback on the first one, and we're just going to go on to the next one. Whoops. And the next one is Manny. I'm going to allow you to talk now. So whenever you're ready, Manny.
Hi, I'm Manny Garcia with Sherman Industries, and I have a problem. I spend thousands of dollars on a home theater, and because of technology changes in a few years, I had a gaggle of wires cascading out of my TV. My solution was to patent the Wall Connect TV outlets, a simple do-it-yourself data atlas system that changes with technology. I'm putting it all in a kit, the last outlet anyone will ever need. The global home theater market was worth $9 billion last year, and $300 million was spent in the US just on TV outlets for new homes. I'm going to launch the Wall Connect TV outlets online in franchise hardware stores and electrical wholesalers. Our kit will have an MSRP of $100 and a map of $69. I estimate the cost for marketing, tooling, certification, and initial production to launch the Wall Connect TV outlets will be $200,000 and have a timeline of 6 months. Investments in Sherman Industries begin at $10,000. Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. Angie, you're up. Okay, Angie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Angie Crowther, the founder of Champion Educational Services. As a veteran international school counselor, I have met thousands of young people around the globe. Sadly, kids and teens all over the world are suffering from depression, anxiety, and loneliness, and cannot afford or do not have access to therapists, school counselors, or social workers. So I just have one question for you. Can a video game save the world? I founded Champion Educational Services to teach social and emotional skills through a mobile video game. The market is saturated with educational companies who offer tutoring and test prep. The Champion is the only company offering social and emotional support. We will first roll out in Mumbai, India, a country with a $1.8 billion mobile gaming market among young people. By the way, this market is set to expand to $6.5 billion in the next 3 years. We are in the research stage and are asking for $100,000 over the next 12 months for game development. Thank you.
Good, you had 8 seconds left. Good job.
Thank you.
And now we're moving on to Margie. Margie Traxler.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do.
Okay. All
Whenever
right.
you're ready.
I'm Margie Traxler. I'm the founder and CEO of Grain Free Mamas. In 2004, my then 6-year-old daughter bent over screaming, and I had no idea what it was, thought it was her appendix. No, it turns out that it's the combination of wheat and sugar burning holes in her intestines. And we tried the gluten-free products and they exploded like sawdust in her mouths. They were horrible. And all of a sudden there was nothing we could buy in the stores. And so we made a pinky promise to deliver on what we wish was available for us. People today don't want to have to choose between good food and good health. They need foods that are low inflammatory, that don't cause problems in the body, and that are as tasty as what's out there. Grain Free Mamas has that. It's a robust market with over 25 billion in it. And we have the team, we have the marketing, we're ready to go. I'd love to tell you more. We're looking to raise 2 million. Thank you.
Okay, good job on the time. You had 5 seconds left. And at this point, we don't have anybody else that has signed up. So it's going to be pretty easy to vote unless we just start calling on people. So Keith Cardwell, are you ready to pitch? Believe me, this works much better in person, where you come over and touch someone on the shoulder and say, hey, you really should do this. It's time now for more feedback. So since everybody who signed up has pitched already.
Michael Jumper looks like he's ready to pitch.
Okay, Michael. Logan, can you add his name into the form? Even if he doesn't make it into the sign-up sheet, if you add him into the voting, that'll work.
Absolutely. Adding him now.
All right, so Michael, let me make sure you can speak. All right, timer set for 1 minute, whenever you're ready.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we got you.
Awesome. Yeah, how's it going, guys? My name is Michael Jumper. I'm the founder of Again, the restaurant review and ordering site where regulars hold the power. Now, consider your favorite restaurant. The first time you went there, you probably searched for reviews, but once you've been there and you like their food, you stop caring about the opinions of other people. And more than that, you more than likely didn't care about sharing your opinions with others either. The rule of marketing says that 1% of shoppers will likely leave reviews while 90% will only read them. The purpose of N-Again is to get the other 90% of shoppers to participate in reviewing by making the process brainless and automatic, by making restaurants and their menu, and by ranking restaurants and their menu items by the number of happy and repeat customers instead of first-time visits. We're able to show off how much repeat visits a restaurant gets. We've already invited 5 restaurants into our working model, with 2 of them planning on using us as their main website option. In addition, roughly 10 more restaurants have displayed strong interest. At this point, we're looking for $500,000.
Okay. There's 2 seconds left. Good. See, Yevis, you wanted to do, are you ready?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
We hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Yves Perez. I am the chairman and chief executive officer of WorkBnB. This is my first startup. We have 5 co-founders on the team, and we are headquartered in Reno, Nevada, and we were founded April this year. Our focus, we are a online travel agency for traveling workers. In 2019, there were 464 million business trips in the United States. $290 billion was spent on business travel. 20% of that was spent on lodging, and only a small fraction of that, the traveling workers received the red carpet treatment when they traveled. The majority received the stained carpet treatment, being placed in motels and hotels for months while they had to do their jobs. We focus primarily on essential workers, and with the infrastructure bill passing, we're very excited about testing our minimal viable product. This will help with workforce housing accessibility.
Yeah, you're over the 1 minute now.
Oops, sorry about that.
That's okay. It takes a lot of practice.
No, that's I try to get it in and close it strong with the ask for help for advice.
Okay. All right. And Christopher Boulin has joined the party here and is ready to pitch. So let me allow you to pitch or to speak. Are you ready, Christopher?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Take it away.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Beelan, and I am the CEO and founder of Proven PCI. PCI is actually the best practices cybersecurity tools that small business owners need in order to become compliant and protect credit card data. Currently in the market, small, medium businesses are underserved and underprotected. They don't have the resources to get the cybersecurity tools that they need. This is currently an overgrowing problem as to where 80% of small businesses are typically breached when it comes to the credit card data that they process. Our SOM is 835 million within 2 years, and we are doing a licensing model for targeting the banks and the processors when they provide their services to the small, medium businesses. What we're introducing is PCI in a box. It's a one-stop solution, all the cybersecurity tools and best practices a small business would ever need to become compliant.
Okay, you have 5 seconds left. Okay. If we don't have anyone else that wants to pitch, it's time to give like general feedback, and then we'll let LB repeat his. So Jeff, overall feedback.
Overall feedback, everybody packed their 1 minute with a lot of facts and figures, which, you know, is probably a little bit too much for the 1 minute pitch. Having a few to sort of demonstrate that there's a big market for it is fine. But there was a lot of facts and figures that you know, what I'm looking for in a 1 minute pitch is more of a story. And all of you have great stories to tell, from, you know, my mom with the cell phone, you know, Margie's daughter with the food allergies, you know, even Chris, your the last one there, you know, the story about, you know, small businesses having to comply with this regulation. I want to hear the story about those people who are your potential customers and why it is, what pain they're in, and how your solution is not necessarily going to solve it technically, but sort of in their lives. So, and I want to be compelled to come on the journey with you. So I thought all of the businesses are interesting. I think the challenge is going to be to make it probably a little bit more emotionally compelling in this 1 minute pitch than necessarily logically compelling. It's got to be a couple of drops of logic in there, but more, I want to hear more from the heart in the 1 minute pitch.
I would agree with you for many of them, but not for all of them. Manny, this time I'm starting to get a picture. You know, you're painting more of a picture with what your solution provides. So I think that's a good improvement. Angie, I found yours to be emotionally compelling and not too fact-filled. And Charlie, I found yours overwhelmingly fact-filled and hard to figure out what it was that you're doing, even though I know what you're doing because I heard your 10-minute pitch. So in that 1 minute, there were a lot of people mentioned and statistics and things that were not really a hook. They would be like, if we were at a party, I would want to go get a drink instead of listening more. So, I mean, don't take that personally, please. Let's see. Margie, yes, your initial story is good. And the cardboard gluten-free stuff, I can totally relate to that. Let's see, Christopher, I think that you can make yours more impactful because there's this compliance component to what you're doing. And yet I don't get a sense of fear that a small business owner should have for this compliance, and that what the risks might be in terms of fines and you know, breaches of security, which is just a nightmare. It's any small business owner's nightmare to have to report back to their customers that that somebody hacked in and got their information. So I think that you have the potential to make it a really dramatic story. And if you have a case study, you know, an actual customer where this has happened, then I think that that would be a very good story. Michael, so I'm confused between last week and this week about whether it has anything to do with the delivery judging the reviews or the restaurant reviews. So I'm still a little bit unclear, and we haven't had that time to talk yet either. So I would like to understand more about what you're doing, but I don't think I got it in the 1 minute pitch. Logan?
Hey, 1 minute pitches are really hard. And Maggie and Jeff hit on all the main points that I want to touch on. Yves, I'll give you a bit of a shout out. Maggie was able to get most of the people. Yves, you kind of did the thing where we have too many fact points and not the, here's the, you know, the pain point, here's what we're doing, and here's where we're going, which is what a 1 minute pitch should kind of go with. You were just listing off who you were, when you were founded. And I've talked to you, I know you have a great concept and you're engaging with us, but you didn't do the story, that hook. Like, this is what we're doing, this problem here, and we're solving it this way, and we're taking it this way. So have those key kind of story components next time you go for the pitch. You know, I will emphasize what Maggie said, and this is kind of more pointed, and no offense to these companies, but Charles and a little bit with Christopher, your jargon. Be aware of your jargon when you pitch, particularly 1 minute, because you have to assume in a 1 minute, they're also called elevator pitches, that what you're talking about has to be, you know, go across in the minute of the elevator, and you don't know who's in the elevator with you. So be aware of the jargon and using your jargon. Christopher, to your credit, that was pretty solid go. You used a couple of terms that really kind of made me get it. Like you said, you know, payment card compliance. And I was like, okay, I kind of understand that. And you're like PCI in a box. And I was like, oh, that visual tool, that PCI in a box, was pretty good. But then again, I'll also just back the points that Maggie and Jeff were touch base on as well. But overall, pretty solid job. A lot of information packed in there, but good practice, everyone.
Okay, so now I've added into the chat the form so that you can vote for 3 that you want to hear a 3 minute pitch from. And while we're voting, we're going to have LB do another 1 minute pitch. So he gets to
I have
apply the
nothing,
feedback.
I got nothing to add, nothing to change. Mine's written down. I practiced it a bunch of times. I don't know.
Okay, and I saw LB that you added into the chat a little resource
Well, that's a
for
really awesome resource.
word counts and estimating time. So
But it
yeah,
also
have a look.
estimates the grade level of what your content is. It's really helpful to
Cool.
get the times down, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yep. Okay, so let's start voting, everybody, and Jeff and Logan, don't forget to vote.
I won't. And I dropped a link into the chat from our last year's entrepreneur bootcamp. We did a whole session on just the art of storytelling in a 1-minute pitch. Our presenter that day, Greg, he spent a little bit of time talking about his career and some of the things that made, why he's a compelling speaker on the topic. So there's a little bit of that up front. You can listen to it. It's great stuff. But when he gets into the meat of the storytelling, the whole video is 44 minutes long, but the bit about storytelling that I think is valuable is got about 15 minutes in the middle. So search through that. I think you'll find some of the lessons that Greg gives are really very good, and touch on some of the advice that you heard Maggie and I giving just a little while ago. Now I have to find my voting form.
We have 5 responses so far. We've got 23 people in the meeting. Logan, was this the final pitch practice and deconstruction, or do we have one more coming up in January?
So we have one more coming up in January, so January 4th. So you guys will have the better part of nearly a month to prepare for the next one on January 4th. We'll have another pitch deconstruction day at that point. So as you're voting, kind of think, and I'll just go over this. See if you think that you want to do a 3-minute pitch next event, or prepare one. Prepare just a few slides, just like 2 to 5, or not that many, to be prepared for that 3-minute pitch if you think that you want to, and if you have something compelling. So keep that in mind for the 4th.
The folks who didn't want to pitch this time, you're still able to vote. You can, whichever one you want to hear more from, go ahead and vote for it. This is why we asked the first person to go again, so we kill at least a little bit of time. Of course, it is only a 1-minute pitch.
It's a hard decision. There's a couple good ones in there.
Yeah, it is kind of hard.
And you actually have to vote yes or no on every line. You can't just vote yes. It won't accept it. You have to vote yes or no for every single one.
Is everybody ready? Has everybody voted who's going to vote?
If you call the time, then we're done.
So no more responses. And let me share my screen, actually. All right, so here we are. So yes is blue, so LB. So the top blue ones are LB. Angie has 7. Yevis has 7. And Christopher has 7. So we're going to hear from those 4. All right. Do all 4 of you have a 3-minute deck that you want to share?
Yes.
All right, Christopher, since you answered yes, I'm going to let you go first. LB, can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, got your hand up. And Angie, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, and Yevis, I know you stepped up, and we're not expecting to do a 1-minute pitch. Do you have any slides for a 3-minute?
It says he has a deck.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go Christopher. This is the order. Angie. Yevis, and who's left? LB. All right. Let me get my timer going for 3 minutes. So Christopher, if you want to share, and I will start the timer again after you say your name and you've got your slide showing.
Okay. My name is Christopher Beelan. I'm the founder of Proven PCI. PCI, real quick, is cybersecurity best practices related to credit card data. So currently, small, medium businesses, when they're just in day-to-day operations, they are currently underserved, underprotected, and under-resourced when it comes to getting the cybersecurity tools that they need to become compliant. Currently, the way it exists, there's no plug-and-go solution. They have to rely on enterprise solutions. and there's low protection and compliance when it comes to these small businesses. The payment card industry compliance software market is $44 billion by 2025. And currently 80% of them suffer a breach from system intrusion. 94% of actual attackers are targeting credit card data. And the average cost to a small business to get compliant or to fail compliancy is $149,000. Our solution, PCI in a box. We've gathered all the tools and requirements that they would ever need to become compliant and put them all in one box. It's deployed through a web application and through our desktop application. It's simple for small businesses to use. Once it's installed, it's up and running and offers continuous compliance moving forward. Our TAM SAM is, like I said, 44 billion. Our SOM, we expect to hit 835 million within 2 years. Our target market is essentially ISOs and banks, merchant service providers, that provide their services to the small, medium businesses. Our comparison, currently these competitors right now, they don't offer an all-in-one solution. They offer two different partnerships. They have a managed security provider, and they have their questionnaire platform. We've put it all together in one platform as to where a no cannot be a response. Every requirement will be met throughout our process. We're doing a licensing structure, and we license to the, like I said, the merchant service providers in caveats of depending on how many merchants they have on their books, and it goes throughout up to 100,000 or more. My team consists of me with 20 years experience in the payments industry. My partners, Josh and Rick, has a couple of years payments industry, 25 years in IT. Jeff Mann is actually a PCI DSS advisor. He has 40 years in cybersecurity, and he is actually on the first team with TrustWave, which was one of our competitors, with the inception of PCI DSS. We're asking for $2 million seed. This is a 2-year runway. This will allow us to double our team, bringing the developers in-house, and our marketing campaign for $10,000 a month. We've divided it out in regards to our audits and certifications, along with what the C-level salaries are, as opposed to the rest of the team. Done.
Oh, okay. That's good. You had about 10 seconds left. Okay, Jeff, comments?
I really liked your rack up slide. So good comparison to competitors. I was still left wondering a bit. Is this something that's required? Is it like a law or regulation?
So not a law, but a requirement regards to PCI or regards to the payment card. So Maggie, I think, or I don't know, whoever gave me the feedback in my original deck, said that they take payments online. If you look at the terms and conditions of taking credit cards, it is saying that all business owners, or you as a business owner, are required to follow the requirements according to the payment card industry. And if you fail to do so, you can incur fines. You're responsible for not only the fines of cardholder data, reissuing of cards. I mean, the list can go on.
All right, it may not be a law, but it's a regulation. Correct. That the people in the industry have either imposed upon themselves, or there is some regulatory body that has the ability to fine you if you don't comply.
Correct.
And that story was not clear to me, and I think that's hugely important. Now, maybe if you're pitching to groups of investors who already understand the payments industry and already understand that that's a thing, you don't have to explain it. But if you don't know that your group that you're explaining it to, needs to know that it's a requirement, I think that's important. I had a software company that helped people comply with the anti-bribery, anti-corruption, FCPA laws. And, we had a similar story, but we always explained, hey, in case you didn't know it, there is this regulation that the SEC enforces, and they can impose fines of tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on big companies. So there's a big lever that you have, I think, that I didn't hear about. So I'm going to strongly suggest that you make that part of your pitch, unless you're just pitching to people who already know it, and that's tailored.
And that's why even on the front slide, we included the definition in simplest forms of what PCI is. I mean, I can give you
No, I understand. You're an expert. You can go on forever. I'm talking about somebody who's possibly going to invest. That's a strong advantage for you to have that regulatory, component compelling people to have to do something in this space, or they might get fined. That's a big deal. I would want to know more, and I would want to dive deep on the actual legal requirement or the regulatory requirement that they have to do something in this area, or they're subjected to fines. That's the part I thought that was just not clear enough. Everything else I thought was pretty clear. Little jargony, but that's the nature of your business. So.
Yeah, Christopher, I'm still a little confused because one of your slides in there, sorry, but I am. Is your customer a small and medium-sized business, or is your customer the merchant services that provide the credit card services to the individual businesses?
Right. So we target two ways. I can go directly to a merchant is one way, but that's going to take me forever. So we've decided to target the processors who impose the fines on non-compliance as it is. And they're the ones they have the relationship with a PCI provider, right? So they already do all the billing anyways. So we're going directly to the processor, and then they'll bill the merchants for it. They're billing the merchants for it right now as it is. They're billing the merchants for compliance fees, non-compliance fees. But their way of handling PCI is just checking a box. And that's where our platform is drastically different. We don't just check a box.
So what I heard you say, because this seems like quite the racket. What I heard you say was these merchant servicers, the ones who process the credit cards, are charging fees to the small, medium-sized businesses for compliance. And yet what they're charging for is the checking off of a box.
Yeah, so it's without throwing any major, because they're eventually our target market, right? Processors have relationships with companies that are my competitors, right? And they have wizards that are in place. And if you were a small business, you would have to go in and self-identify how you take payments, and then pull up the proper questionnaire. And then once you pull up that questionnaire, you have to just check a box. And once you check a box, you get your certification. But at the same point, you're also given a false sense of security because there's no proof.
Okay. Well, who is it that does the fines then? What agency is regulating this?
So that comes down from Visa and MasterCard through the banks and so forth. And then it's passed on to the merchant, right? If there's a breach, you're going to be talking to an auditor, an assessor, and they're going to want to have proof that you are in compliance. And most small businesses don't. In regards to Charles' question, does Stripe handle PCI compliance? No, they do not. They, even in their terms and conditions, say that you still have to maintain compliance. It's in your terms and conditions.
Okay, Logan, any feedback?
Other than the points that you guys made, again, just to reiterate Maggie's point, like MSPs versus SMBs, like it gets thrown under it. It's hard to understand that initial point. However, great on qualifying the jargon when you opened up. That you said what it was, and I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of get where you're diving into. The deck looks good from a visual perspective. It's not crowded. They had most of the key points you need to do. And then of course you had your SOM. The TAMSAM SOM looked great. And I appreciate how it looked. I appreciate that you had it sectioned out. I can tell you did it. If you say that that's your targeted market at 2 years, usually a runway for a startup, it can be that quick. But if you're looking at 835 million within 2 years, that's really, really large, really, really quick. So just be prepared to defend that should you get asked on that. Because effectively, remember Maggie's presentation last week is your SOM is basically saying it's implicit, it's implying your revenue essentially at that maturity point of 3 to 5 years in some capacity. And in 2 years at $835 million SOM, you're going to get some questions on that. So just be prepared. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying be prepared to take some questioning at the end of your pitches on that. And you don't need to qualify that to me right now. I'm just saying that you should be prepared for that. Other than that, I think that Maggie and Jeff hit the other points that I would point out.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Christopher. Angie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, start sharing. And you can begin whenever you're ready. I'll, again, start the timer after you say your name and company.
Great. Good evening. My name is Angie Crowther, the founder of Champion Educational Services, and I had a career as an international school counselor in the United States, India, and the United Arab Emirates. And over the years, I observed that youth and children around the world are suffering from stress, depression, anxiety, and lack of access to preventative services, many times because they could not afford to hire a school counselor, therapist, or social worker. So I have a question for you. Can a video game save the world? Champion Educational Services is gamifying social and emotional learning by developing a mobile video game that will cost $2 to $3 US, single player, fun and engaging, and will teach universal social and emotional skills, leading to greater mental health, healthier and more resilient relationships, and the ability for young people to help solve our world's biggest problems. So educational companies, as you'll see here, the champions at the top and the next 3 are in the US, the bottom 2 are in India. They are saturated with academic tutoring and college test prep. But no one is offering social emotional support, and only one other company is gamifying their services. India has the largest mobile gaming market. One country is 12% of the world's total. Currently, it's $1.8 billion, and it's projected to expand to $6.5 billion by 2025. Our plan is to first roll out in Mumbai. India has 600 million young people. 3 million live just in Mumbai, and it's as projected that 60% of them will have access to the internet or a smartphone by 2025. So for a $2 or $3 mobile download, that's a possible $3.6 million in revenue. Our plan is to first roll out in Mumbai, expand to greater India, and then move through our international school contacts to China and the Middle East. We have a team ready to go. Among us, we have experience with a combined 9 startups, and we are asking for $100,000 for a year's worth of developing concept and design for the video game, and then game development. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to speaking with you.
Okay, you had more than half a minute left.
Whew, okay, thanks.
Had you practiced it at 3 minutes?
I did practice, and I guess I got nervous and spoke quickly.
Yes, that does happen.
It didn't
Okay,
feel, it didn't feel like you were going, like you were talking really fast and trying to get past it.
That's good, at least.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to, I know Jeff has a commitment, so that's why I keep shoving him out front. Otherwise, we'd take turns. But go ahead, Jeff.
There's I have a couple of concerns. First, you did a good job with the presentation. A couple of concerns, from an investor's perspective.
Yes.
First, it's always hard to get $100,000 or any amount of money for something that's a concept that has no proof point. And then when I start to hear, okay, this is happening in India and it's only $2. $2 in India has a whole different concept than $2 in the US. So there's some cultural components with how much things cost. And I don't understand whether or not, the people in India, China, and all these other places that you mentioned, do they even consider mental health an issue? I mean, culturally, is that a thing for them?
Okay.
And I would want to know all of those things, or I would be concerned about it as an investor. I know that I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm a little bit doubtful whether culturally they're as interested in those kinds of things as we are here in the United States, or they might be in Europe. But I worry about it. I have no idea.
Okay.
So, so those were the things. I thought the deck was put together well. I thought you presented it well, but those are my concerns.
Thank you.
That there's probably a reason maybe these other educators haven't pursued that market strongly in this area, and I would just want to know more about that.
Can I just ask a follow-up question about the 3-minute pitch? Is that something to address in a 3-minute pitch?
Yeah, you want to make sure that that when you're talking about your market, you do want to demonstrate that there's an actual need.
Okay.
And everybody understands that India, it's the second largest population base on the planet.
Yeah.
But are they culturally engaged and financially able to be your customers?
Okay.
And that there's got to be. I would want to hear more about that. And like I said, it's really, really hard to get an investor, unless they're your friends and family. Those are always your best investors to get for a concept. To get an investor who doesn't love you to invest in a concept, unless you've done it before. I mean, one of these Silicon Valley masters of the universe comes out and has a concept. They're going to get investment just because they're a master of the universe. They've done it before. Those are the rest of us. Even if we've done a thing or two before, it's still really hard to get people to invest in a concept. So
I think you're saying I need an MVP, right?
an MVP with a few, you don't have to have product market fit, but having something that you can show that this is how it works. There is a market for it, even if it's not the whole thing, just something. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Logan, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to reiterate and kind of add to Jeff's point is investors definitely want to see kind of some limited adoption. What you talked about is this concept, you've done some market research, but we didn't really have it in there, and there may not have been a ton of time, but you could have definitely, if you had the data to back it, touch base on it. Is have you talked to various customers? Have you done any survey work or customer work to talk to? And if you can get that research from that directly from that market through various resources or channels or services that are out there for getting that kind of information, have you demonstrated or asked around what they would use that service that you're describing? And that's one way to kind of answer some of Jeff's questions, is to go out and ask the market, and then MVP, like you probably knew, and deploy, some alpha product or some alpha concept to kind of test that. And then you have a lot more oomph to your statements when you start to pitch and bring that concept to bear. So some of that you already knew, of course, Jeff's is an investor, so he comes from that perspective. But just to iterate that one, I did on the other comments, I did like, can a video game save the world? That's a great hook. When you, particularly with a short pitch, when you are going through a concept, and that was an intriguing hook to me. So I did appreciate that one. You definitely got into your market, kind of like, like who, what the revenue might be. That's fine. That's all dandy. If you can truncate that, that's why Cam Sam Som has taken over pre-seed and seed and Series A, those almost all the way through pitch decks, because it simplifies your market to just this one slide instead of multiple markets. You can always lead down the line when you go into a deeper dive meeting, or you can have it as an accessory slide to kind of have what your projected revenue is. That's great, because that'll have some information. But truncating down to a TAM SAM SOM is highly preferred by a lot of investors.
Okay, thank you.
So consider including that. Maggie gave a great talk about it last week, and it's on our YouTube, and we sent out some resources related to it. So consider that, and practically applying that to your pitch decks as well. Your capital allocation. So you had pretty broad buckets, for the development of the app. We didn't really see like kind of what the breakdown of that is. And you might be a little too early to really know where the allocation of that capital is going. But investors down the line, when they would like to see kind of what we call a capital allocation. Where is the money going to, and specifically where is it going to? It doesn't need to be a financial statement, but it does need to kind of be a little bit more of a breakdown. Similar, Christopher, to his credit, had a great breakdown of his capital allocation for that. So something to consider on that end as well. And something you didn't have, but again, this is something that I feel like is that when you have a concept you're developing and you're starting to develop it, letting us know what the status of that project is, what stage you're at. And we can call that traction. You're a little bit pre-traction right now, but you'll as you get traction, you want to say, here's where we are, here's where we're going. But here's where we are is pretty important as well. So keep that in mind. And that, again, to reiterate Jeff's point, solid presentation on the other components though.
Great. Thank you so much for the feedback.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question, because that was a point that was made in the previous pitch practice. What is the investor's perception of saying that invested capital will be used for salaries?
It depends on whose salaries. I'll let Maggie and Jeff give some feedback, because when you're this early, the saying is that if salaries don't come till later rounds. Now, of course, investors don't want you to starve, and obviously, we would hope that you have, until it's maintaining itself, you can have some component of it addressed to that. But most of the allocation for your early rounds should be going to the key things that are needed to make it run. And that's not always going to be your salary. You're going to have to be putting a lot of effort into this at below what you might expect the normal wage before to get this making money. Yeah, so it's more of a like, where can you allocate assets as a founder to make this successful, so that I can reap the rewards down the line. Similar as a small business, initially you're taking a pay haircut because you're reinvesting those assets to developing the business. So salaries are fine. It's just within reason and what is really needed to get the concept off the ground. And of course, Maggie and Jeff could probably go into that with more viability than I can.
Jeff, you want to give us 2 sentences?
It's really hard to justify salaries for founders in the seed, pre-seed and seed stage. Once the investments get up into the high 6 figures, low 7 figures, and you're getting into the large seed rounds and A rounds, then the expectation is that the founders are going to take a salary. Prior to that, there's usually just not enough money for that. Which is really hard. Believe me, I understand it. I've lived that.
It's good to know the reality.
Yeah, that's the reality. I teach classes at the university, and when the students put salaries in there, I'm generally like, just no, just no, not in your first round or two. If when the investment gets bigger, usually it's right at the A round is generally when the salaries come in. There's ways to account for your time in terms of sweat equity from a financial perspective. I don't want to get bogged down in the details of that. But it is a bit of a luxury that people that have the ability in whatever their personal setup is in life to be able to pursue a startup, whether that's because their partner is making enough money so that they can afford to do this, or they've had a success before and they don't need to take a salary, or there's a million situations that you put yourself in where you're able to do that. And I've seen certainly plenty of founders who just, I don't know how they lots of credit card debt, lots of ramen and peanut butter. So there's a part of it that's that as well. So that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, great to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. So Angie, my feedback on your pitch was you presented well, as you usually do. My question though, you have a big team, and when you start talking about salaries, your ask is actually really small, $100,000 for development. But your team, I question when you say that it's a single player game, are parents going to be able to see how their children are doing? What would they know about how well their children are doing? Or do the teachers have this kind of access? So those were just questions that popped up for the validity of what you're trying to do. So just take that for whatever it's worth. I don't know if it's something you've considered.
What I'm getting most of all is I'm just so early.
Yeah, well, yes.
But thank you. Thank you so much, all of you.
Okay, time to move on. Yevis, do you have your slides ready?
Okay, again, my name is Yves Perez. I am the Chief Executive Officer of WorkBnB, a new OTA booking platform for traveling workers. The famous investor, Damon John, once said that the easiest thing to sell is the truth. And the truth is that there's a severely underserved market in travel today. Over 464 million business trips were conducted in 2019, and there was $290 billion spent on business travel. 20% of that was for lodging. Now, a very small majority get the red carpet treatment, but the majority of traveling workers get the stained carpet treatment. And this is because office administrators and other operational people are deciding where these workers are staying based on accessibility at the time that their projects or their travels are required. 32% of that travel pie are deemed essential workers. And these are the trip categories that we've actually assessed during our client interviews based on all of our research leading up to our MVP. We have 30 plus 3 days to 30 days, 3 to 6 months and more. Now, 55 million Americans are traveling for work just to do their jobs in the United States. Many are doing hazardous jobs, keeping infrastructure up. And a recent example is Hurricane Ida, where over 14,000 power poles were knocked out and citizens were without power for over a month. The majority of the people that were doing the work do not live in New Orleans. In fact, journeyman linemen, there are 800,000 traveling for work every year, 1.7 million traveling nurses traveling, and over 10 million construction workers in the United States, with 2 million more coming because of the infrastructure bill. And construction is forever. Now, I'm going to skip ahead because I need to keep this short. My experience comes from working with my mother's operation in Reno, Nevada. She started off in the vacation rental world, setting up nice little homes for people to travel to. We saw the pandemic coming and we switched our business model to workforce rentals instead of vacation rentals. We grew her revenues by 300% in 8 months. And that was during the pandemic. And then the companies reached out to us and said, can you set up housing for us, quality housing with kitchens in every city which we travel? Now that's almost impossible. We can't be everywhere. So we were struck by lightning and we said, we're going to create the WorkBnB app. Now the user journey is unique. It focuses on an enterprise approach where employees are uploaded, project details are uploaded, and then rentals are then presented.
Yeah, your time's up again.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go first this time. You spent far too long on the problem, and I'm still not sure what your solution is. I know it has something to do with housing for traveling workers, but even in a 10-minute pitch, I would say that was too much time spent on the problem. We want to get to the solution quicker.
Okay.
Other than that, it's really hard to see when you're sharing a mobile phone. So I would have appreciated full-size slides, but
I do apologize. I was actually on an evening walk when I logged on, and I'm like out in the middle of a nice brisk walk outside here in Reno. And I was like, oh my gosh, slides. I think I have them on my phone. I apologize for that.
Good enough. All right, Jeff, do you want to give some feedback?
Yeah, too much on the problem. Don't know what the solution is. As somebody who's traveled about 7 million miles over the last 20 years, and did all of that ranging for my travel on my own, no executive administrative assistants or other people doing it for me. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to stand up for us folks that spend a whole lot of time on the road. But I want to know how that works, not only from the operational perspective, but from the traveler's perspective, because it's got to work for them as the people who are experiencing the stained carpet treatment. So I want to know more, but just too much time spent on what I think you could have described in 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
So
Logan?
Yeah, and Yvette, as you know, you and I are going to be working on your deck, so we'll touch base on some of this stuff. But to reiterate what Maggie and Jeff talked about is too much time on the solution, or sorry, the problem, and not enough of the solution. And some of those other points you want to touch on, even in a 3-minute pitch. So photos are great. They emphasize the point, but you still need some structure to the pitch itself. A little bit of wording will go a long way. The photos are fine, but bringing it back down and cutting out some of the photos and truncating the message to like 2 to 3 slides max for the problem, and with a couple of photos in there to emphasize the point, that's a more effective approach, particularly when you're pitching to investors. Kind of a tangent that, boys, I'd love to see your branding. Some great companies don't have that much branding on their pitches, but they're also not just photos. So we would love, investors like to see a good, crisp, clean deck that also has some branding components, so that I see your logo either watermarked or at the corner or something as you're going through the deck. And then you can start on that and you can end on that. So consider that when you're structuring your deck, as far as like the deck itself and its structure. Other than that, just the points that Maggie and Jeff reiterated, there might have been some jargon in there. People probably don't know what OTA is. There's a couple other components there. So remember that when you're pitching, you got to clearly say in layman's jargon, what is the pain point, which you did for the most part, and then what is the solution. But other than that, I like Jeff. I want to know more, because it is a problem, and if you can solve something in that, then I'm interested in hearing more. So.
Okay, thank you. And
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you for stepping up, even though you had not the best conditions to do it in. All right, LB, how are you doing? Are you ready to go? Okay.
We talked about, I'm LB Corney, a freelance software developer. I talked to you about cell phone 101 today. Learn your smartphone. So yeah, the problem. People are frustrated not knowing how to use their expensive cell phones. I discovered this because of COVID. I've been helping lots and lots of people interact with each other, share stuff, and talk to each other when they're stuck at home. And I found many people, mostly older folks, who just weren't comfortable with the technology and really struggled. And they were embarrassed. They were, kind of ashamed. And they just didn't know how to use their phone very well. They couldn't do a lot of things that most people can do. So I understood the problem. And the solution, cell phone 101, focuses on safety and security with dashboard of tasks and users' progress in those tasks. Over 115 cell phone related tasks have been identified. This works on either a mobile app or a desktop. And we offer a significant free tier support. Our market conversation. So basically, we're looking at the people I'm talking about are in this technology adoption curve are the late majority and laggards. They're late to the game. They didn't understand technology as it got there. They were slow to embrace. And that's where we are. There's 294 million smartphone users in the USA, and half of those are late majority laggards on the curve. When you can look at the numbers of people, 30% of the Americans are 55 or older, and many of those people are in that late majority laggards area. So our initial focus is on older Americans who are late majority laggards on the tech adoption curve. And here's my addressable market, serviceable, available market, obtainable market. And there's assumptions here is that we're charging $5 per phone. And like what came right down to it, if I really wanted to do my goal, this is a silly goal. My goal was I want to get advertised in AARP magazine. And that's you know what? That's a heck of a goal. So I'm going to shoot for 10% of the 38 million people who are members of the, AARP stands for American Association of Retired People. So that's my serviceable attainable market. And that's where I want to go for my initial goal. Business model priority. I really struggle with this. That's kind of why I'm here. We're committed to safety and security. If you don't know how to use your phone safely, you shouldn't be processing money via your phone. With that in mind, how do I get paid? proposal, 2-for-1 pricing. That's like I would buy it for me and my mom. I'd pay for $10 and we both get licenses. We're assuming a price of $9.99 for 2-phone access. And this is not traditional app. This is my arena. I spent a lot of time in this arena. Zero to Apple Store, Apple app download, and 0 to Google Play. I know how to do that and make it work really well. Competition. This is really weird. I was shocked when I went to look for URLs. Everything was available. So what's out there right now in this arena? There's lots of YouTube videos. There's lots of how-to pages, just in general. Apple has this thing called the Tips app. It's a native app. Google Android has nothing like it. And there's a bunch of how-to books. Time?
LB, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Can I go to the next slide just so you can see it? Here's my problem is my ask. I have no ask at this time. I'm not looking for money at all. I would ask for your mom's mobile phone number so I can include her as a paid up user and app tester. Thank you.
That's pretty funny. Okay, Jeff, before you go, do you have any feedback?
Yeah, I think you just, you need, this guy Spam Risk calls me all the time. You need practice, right? I think
Hey, I didn't practice this. You can tell. I didn't practice.
It's clear that you haven't practiced it much.
Correct.
And because you're trying to jam so much information in here. I still have, some concerns about just the market and why haven't the cell phone companies addressed this themselves? They have the most to benefit from it. So I'm curious about the market. I would love to have seen you do what the the business model canvas talks about. Is just talk to customers, get some feedback from people. Would they pay for this? And talk to a bunch of them and ask them how they would prefer to receive this training, if they would want it, what they would pay for it. I'm scratching my head. I'm a bit of a doubting Thomas about whether the market here is ready for it. If it's something that's needed. As an investor, I worry, okay, if I invest my money in this company, is it going to grow? Is it going to get to a point where some other bigger company is going to want to buy them out? And I feel like I need some reassurance around that. And if you can't get it because you can't develop the app and do it as a beta, then I'd certainly want to hear, stories from customers that this is
I'm not asking for it. I don't want your money. I'm making that really clear. And that's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. And for everybody's sake, I shared in the chat a JPEG of a 5-minute pitch script that I give to my students at UNR that tells them how to do a 5-minute pitch, exactly how many seconds to allocate to each topic. I know that's not the same for a 3-minute pitch, but if you carve out a little bit from each of the areas and probably don't have to spend any time on financials in a 3-minute pitch, I think it'll give you a guide as to kind of how to allocate your time in a 3-minute pitch. So with that, I have another pitch group to do in 5 minutes. So I'm going to go and hit my students at UNLV for the rest of the evening. So thanks everybody. You guys did a terrific job, and we'll see you next week and in the weeks following. Have a good night.
Okay, LB, I liked your slides. I thought they were pretty clever. I think the way that you were talking about, okay, there's these late adopters. Okay, I understand that. That was cool enough. And I thought it was really earnest of you to want to get just 10% of the AARP membership, which I think you said it would work out to 1.9 million people would be your customers.
Oh, those were dollars. Yeah.
Oh, it was dollars, not people.
Those were in dollars. 19 million. So divide by 5. So what is that? It's whatever. 19 divided by 5. Yeah.
4 million.
Yeah.
And so 4 million, that it's still, even at 1.9 million or even 19 million, that is not a large enough market for investors. But you said you're not here for investors.
Right. I'm not here for investors. This is a one person shop.
Yeah. So so I think that Jeff makes a really valid point in that you should talk to your customers. It sounds like you've done a lot of work already if you have 115 identified tasks for the cell phone. So you did a lot of work up front
Yes.
without knowing whether people would jump in and do it, and if they would pay for it, and if so, how much.
Yeah.
So you should circle back and try to get that aspect done. With that, I'm going to turn it over, Logan.
Yeah, so pretty much, Maggie and Jeff kind of hit the main points. I too kind of like the look of the deck. The brevity of information on the deck is how we like to see pitches. You don't want to over encumber the deck. So good job on that. Appreciate the candor and the spirit. Yours is a little bit of a weird situation because we're coming at it from an investor's perspective. If you're not looking for investor dollars, then there's a bit of a jumble there. So, but nonetheless, I was a little bit confused on the tasks when I was going through those. As I was like, okay, tasks. So, are these tasks like something to include, or are you helping investors? So, what the value add of it, that component, I was a tad confused on. I get that you're trying to provide security and training for usage of a phone for people who are unfamiliar with technology. Tam, Sam, Tom, Maggie touched base on that. Competition. So you touched on your competition and kind of what they were. It always helps to, again, from the perspective of an investor, it helps to show us what in a rack up or a matrix of some nature, so that when I look at it, I see, okay, what are you doing different than your competition? So just
I will say on that note, real surprise, I was shocked that every URL I looked at was available in this space. That never happens. Not for $10 a year. Hell no. I was shocked. I'm like, wait a second, why is that? So
you
there's
got
no
your
one in
choices then,
space.
huh? You got your choices then.
Yeah.
And then again, from a perspective of an investor, I know you're not raising, but from perspective of investors, you had too many tentatives. Like, I'm kind of thinking of this, or this is what I'm thinking about doing. I'll do this. When you button down a pitch, and when you button down a pitch to which you might eventually have to like a customer perspective, or what we call a sales pitch, no tentatives. You got to say what you're doing, what's being executed. The only tentatives can be like, no, not even then. Like when you say where we're going, this is where we're going. Even then, you want to be as least tentative as possible.
Yes, sir.
So on that, I appreciated the candor and the uppityness that you're giving to it, which is perfect attitude to come into with for a pitch. So good job on that.
Thank you.
So LB, thank you for jumping in and doing this. Appreciate it, and volunteering to be the guinea pig as well. If you want to look into the business model canvas to just kind of lay out your business, Steve Blank I think he went on to develop the lean startup, but the business model canvas, you can find that online, and that will give you kind of a focus of how to go about preparing the business. But I think the thing that you need to focus on most is customer validation. So Michael is asking about doing a demo, but it's a sales demo that he wants to do in his pitch. That's not, any kind of demo really doesn't work well in a 3-minute pitch. You need to be getting into at least a 10-minute pitch before you start doing sort of demos. Okay, and when you're doing those demos, I always caution against video. Do not include video in a deck, especially if you send a deck to investors that has video in it. They will stop the deck, watching the deck at the point where they come to video. They will not take the risk of running a video on their machine. And that's just it. It's like, you've lost your opportunity. If you want to demonstrate with wireframes, or if you want to do screenshots, you can do that, but that's still risky also, because a lot of times screenshots don't work well either. They're just it's too small to see what's going on. Everyone, yes, there's definitely a difference between a sales deck and a pitch deck, and there are differences among pitch decks as well. If you are presenting a pitch deck, it should have far fewer words on it and more images, because you want to hold the attention of the people who are listening to you. If you're sending it to an investor, unless they've asked for it, that's risky, but that's a different topic. But if you are sending a deck for somebody to try to understand your business and they're not going to have the benefit of your narration, then of course there have to be more words on the slides to explain the concept. And I would say, like Christopher, I know that you have, you modified your deck from the last time I saw it. So, and that is the way that you have to think about it. Pitch deck is a living thing. It depends on who the audience is. It depends on how much time you have. And it depends on how much your audience actually knows about your business. Because if they know your business, then you can be more technical. If they don't know your business, you have to explain it like you're talking to your best friend's grandmother, like really simple, basic terms. Very little jargon is appropriate at any time, because even if you have an audience of people who know what you're talking about, you don't need to use the jargon either. Just keep it simple, stupid. So, well, that is my advice for general pitch deck information. Logan? And what's up next? When do we meet again?
So we actually meet on, this will be next week, December 14th for Pitch Decks 101. So we will be going into a lot of these key components that are, you know, what you need to be thinking about when you're giving a pitch. And we'll have some focus mainly on the, what is kind of what might be the standard 10-minute pitch and those key components that generally investors like to see, and the do's and do nots when it comes to pitches themselves. So you guys, I know you guys, a number of you guys will probably have some questions on this, and we can rest assured we'll be addressing those next week. This will be a hybrid model. There will be an in-person component at the International Innovation Center in Las Vegas, and then there will be a online attendance available as well. Also, this will be, like the other events, recorded and sent out within a week after the next week's event, with some additional resources on structuring your pitch decks and, you know, getting us through. Also, while we're on the topic of pitch decks, and again, we'll emphasize this next week, we offer kind of separate from the application to the accelerator. So it's not required that you apply to the accelerator, but we do offer a pitch deck review process. If you are seriously considering raising capital in the future and you have a pitch deck that you want to submit for a serious review, feel free to take advantage of that service. And we, you know, we'll be able to take, how much is the cost of the review deck? That is free. That is a free service to the community. It does not cost anything to submit your deck for review. And we're sorry that that's been what's held you up thus far from submitting it to us. We're happy to take a look at the deck. Again, so next week, Pitch Decks 101, I will be giving that presentation on that, and Maggie and I will address that. We might be going at it together. And, you know, we're looking forward to seeing you next week, everyone.
Yes, then I wanted to add one more thing. So the Gust application is open now. So if you are interested in applying for the AngelNV investment, which is a minimum of $200,000, the Gust, actually, can you find the link for that, Logan?
I can.
And one of the reasons that we're talking about a 10-minute pitch so much is that you are able to upload your pitch and you can record it in this forum. So the whole thing is a video, but you can include your deck, or you can include a video of you doing your deck when you apply to Gust. So we're asking for a 10-minute pitch. Somebody asked about narration going with a PowerPoint. I think that would be fine. Most investors are really familiar with PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Okay.
the standard is PDF or PowerPoint. I know that, and even Christopher, you used a different software to create your pitch deck, which is great. There are some services out there that are used for like creating and sharing pitch deck, but when you're pitching, it's always good to go with just something tried and true, like a PDF or a PowerPoint, something you just is not going to break or not going to work, and whatever platform format you're on, you'll be able to present. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so there is the link for the Gust application. And Logan, you should be including it in every email that goes out from now until
Absolutely.
the deadline to apply is January 18th.
Yep. So everyone, this link will be included. We will be sending it out in that email as follow up. And any correspondence you have with us, we will try to include that in those emails.
Jonathan, I don't understand your question. Is there a vesting process when we submit our pitch videos? So a formal face-to-face pitch deck presentation might or might not happen for some of us. Yes, so once the January 18th deadline for AngelNV 2, the investors will get together for education on February 1st and 2nd. They will be given the links to see who has applied, but they won't be given a lesson on how to use the platform until the following week. So after February 9th, then the investors will actually be looking at everybody who applies. They'll be able to see everything that you upload, and they can write reviews on anything. That following week on the 9th, when we get together and talk about Gust, we will be breaking them into teams, and the teams will be assigned some of the companies that applied. So they will be reviewing specific companies after the 9th. So that will definitely be happening after the 9th. So you can start your application and make modifications to it from now until the 9th. And then the process is for the teams to present, actually, the teams will whittle down the companies that they're looking at to the ones that they want to hear more from. And they will present their reasons to the other teams. And based on how many we get, they will probably get to 16 to 20 of them that we want to hear a 3-minute pitch from. And then everybody will listen to those pitches, and we'll whittle it down to a smaller number from which we will hear 10-minute pitches. And again, more voting. And then the goal is to get to 6 companies on which the angels will perform due diligence. And this is a learning process for them. So they're led by experienced angels, and they will be, they're given so much information, but they break into brand new teams, each team assigned to one of the companies. They go forth and do due diligence on their company, and then we meet weekly and report back to each other on where we are with the due diligence. And it gets to a point where they have to formalize their reports by a certain date. And then the finale happens on April 30th. The finalist companies will pitch one more time. And by that time, we usually have an idea of how much money has been invested, so that we know how much can be invested in how many different companies. So the basic is $200,000. Last year we got to 330. So we were able to, and the angels had decided that they would do secondary investments of at least a minimum of $50,000. So that meant we could invest in 3 companies. So the first place company got an investment of $220,000, and the second and third place companies each got a $55,000 investment. But that determination is made by the angels. So they can set the bar higher. They can make it like it's got to be a minimum of 75, but they kind of do it based on their enthusiasm for the companies that we have and trying to make a meaningful investment, but not like spread it around too much. It's very rare that they love all 6 of the finalist companies. So, okay. That should do it for tonight. So we'll see you next week. And feel free to email Logan if you have any questions, or me.
Everyone, have a wonderful evening. Again, you can reach me at logan@startupnv.org. So feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or need any additional resources. Again, we will be sending out those resources within a week. Please tune in next week, Tuesday, for the next event session, which will be Pitch Decks 101.